Thank you so much for being here and welcome to Eat, Move, Meditate LA. We're so excited to have you all here. This room is filled with so many beautiful faces. People we haven't met yet, returning people, friends, family. I'm so grateful to have you all here. We will get into the full welcome announcements a little bit later. We do have a full schedule on this white wall here. Behind the wall are the restrooms. If you haven't helped yourself to a snack and a beverage, definitely do so. But I wanted to take this moment to introduce you to the 4 fabulous men in front of me who will be leading our wellness panel. So without further ado, we have Keith Mitchell, former all-professional football player. He used to be an NFL linebacker, now turned international yogi, motivational mindfulness coach, and founder of the Light It Up Foundation. Welcome, Keith. Next to him, we have Arjuna. Welcome. He is a 500-hour registered yoga teacher, mindfulness and meditation instructor, and he's a facilitator for nonviolence, peace, and founder of Share Necessities. Welcome. And then we have Mel right next to him. Mel is a wellness counselor at the Dr. Sebi Cell Food Store. Yes, he is one of the core pioneers to lead the wellness movement created by the late Dr. Sebi. So welcome, Mel. Thank you for being here. And then last but not least, we have Dr. Ted Burnett. He is a dynamic dental professional with over 30 years of experience in general cosmetic and biometric dentistry. He's also the founder of Los Angeles Dental Arts, so welcome. Okay, so we're gonna get started. We will have time for questions at the end, and then we'll get into the full welcome announcements and go through the flow of today. We have so many things packed for all of you, and we're super excited to get started. And so I will hand over the mic to our wellness panels. Thank you.
So before we get started, I'd like to just have everyone look around the room, acknowledge all these beautiful human beings that we're holding space together with. Take a moment, check in. Now check in with yourself. Just acknowledge your heartbeat. Maybe put your hand on your heart for a moment. Take a few inhales. Appreciate that thump you feel behind your hand. So, the way I'm going to flow with this is all intuitive. So you're going to have to ride with me. So imagine we're in the carpool lane on the 10, but we're moving. Everybody else is stuck, but we're flowing. So, the way I like to share is in the form of storytelling. And usually when we tell stories from a place of where we've been wounded, where we've been hurt, where things have happened to us, which is okay. So as I talk, I'm going to talk about mindfulness, awareness, self-awareness, and how to use it from the time you wake up to the time you go to sleep. So pay attention, but if there's anything that I share that needs to be articulated or clarified at any point, raise your hand, and I'll try to make it make sense. So I'm going to jump in here real quick and just give you what my experience has been and why mindfulness and self-awareness has been so key in my life. And at any point, if something comes up for you as I share, where you feel a strong emotion come over and you need to take a moment, step outside, get some air, please honor yourself. This is a space where I want you to have the permission to show up fully. I know a lot of times, in today's society, we feel like valuable things come in pretty packages. I'm gonna tell you right now, my Instagram handle only has 1,400 followers. But the jewels that I want to share with you, I've lived them, and I've overcome them, and I've seen the results of them. And anybody here in this room that knows me can attest to that. But not so much about me. I just want to understand how I could be of service to you, and I want to make myself relevant as a human being. So when I was a little boy, age of 5, I was molested by the babysitters. I tried to speak up. They poisoned me, left me for dead. Fast forward that, turned 17 in a mental institution based on the behavior that was coming up from how I was raised, from the experiences that I had. So I've done the padded room, the real room. They tried to tell me I was crazy, but I didn't believe it. My heart just wouldn't wouldn't accept that. But I did battle with it mentally. And then at 19, drug deal went bad. I was shot, hit in the femoral artery, where I bled out. But I had my first meditative experience. Usually, at the time you hear stories about people transitioning, you think about all these thoughts. And in that moment, I was reminded of everything my mother used to teach me about self-awareness, self-love, self-care. And instead of worrying about dying, it just came real clear to me to check in and see if any of those tools, any of these practices that we're getting ready to go into really worked. So I tried it. I took that deep inhale. Now, if you know anything about the femoral artery, it's one of the largest blood supplies. It takes the blood from the foot back to your heart. And so the sound of that blood leaving me didn't give me a lot of hope. So I knew I had to work fast. So I was like, how do you cut through the mind chatter? How do you cut through all of this story and get into the practice? Because this might be your only shot to save your life. So I took a deep breath. And I knew from watching movies that once you hit in the femoral artery, it doesn't stop. And then I knew from going to school that when you're excited, the heart beats faster. So I'm trying to calm down because I'm like, I only got a few seconds to do this before the ambulance come. And if you're from the inner city, you already know. You're on employee time. Real talk. So, as I'm having this conversation with myself, I began to think, man, if I die like this, all this hard work that my mother has put in, I've never seen her waver. I've never seen her fret in any circumstance. I can't go out like this. Fast forward that, I had this conversation with God, and I'm here. I believe in the word God. I use that word very admirably. And so, all that to say is, when we think about mindfulness, awareness, meditation, all of us are meditating. When you're sitting there thinking about that text message that you sent 20 minutes ago and you didn't get that response yet, you meditate. But what are we meditating on? And for some of us, well, if we look around this room, for the majority of us, there's a lot of things that need to happen before we can even get into that deep space of just really grounding yourself, centering yourself. The fact that I look like this, the fact that I got to step outside and deal with the challenges that I got to deal with. Not to mention my own personal stories, and then the circles that I'm around. So when you talk about awareness, how aware are you to how you respond to the things that are happening? So if you're in this space right now, I'm sure the mind is going where it's going and thoughts are coming up. But if you take just your physical form out of the equation, if you take your story out of the equation and just look at yourself as this limitless being, this blessing, that's why I said, check that heartbeat. Because as long as that's still thumping, at any point with a deep breath or a conscious breath and awareness, you have the ability to shift any moment. And that's what laying there dying taught me, is that I could have laid there, fretted, worried, bled out. And a lot of times in our situations, we check out. You feel numb. And a lot of the stories that we carry with us, they're really not all our stories. But the moment you give anything outside of you, your time, your energy, when you're scrolling, you give a lot of your power away. So as the rest of these gentlemen share, I really want you to check in. Take advantage. You came here for a reason. Come get what you came for. Now, we may not look like celebrities, or we may not have these big platforms, or we dress like conscious men or just everyday casual people. But don't let that stop you from receiving the jewels that you came to get today. Or maybe somebody that's sitting right next to you. How aware are you when you're in this space? Where are you going to let your mind go while these men drop these jewels? Are you going to judge yourself? And it's real. I thought about this shirt for 20 minutes. And then Ray was like, that's a nice shirt. But some of us, we're so busy with life, but you ain't busy with your life, right? Let's just be real. You came here to get something. I want you to get it. To die and come back and to see how this really works for me, you know, I realize that the heart is one of the most powerful tools that we all have. And so I'm going to leave you with this. Check in with it and ride it throughout the rest of this night. I challenge you to allow your heart to lead you. And I guarantee you, when you leave this space, you won't look back. You're going to be inspired to look forward. Your heart knows. And if you don't have this connection, anything that they're getting ready to share with us, it's just good information. But can you integrate it? Can you embody it? Can you walk with it? Thank you.
How's everybody doing today? My name is Mel Watkins. For those of you that are familiar with Dr. Sebi, the herbalist that passed 3 years ago, he and I met in 1965. We had a friendship of 52 years. And discussed many, many things that dealt with the human body. He answered many of the questions that we have about maintaining our health. He answered a very important question for me. I used to think about vitamins were the thing to look for but he let me know that that was not correct. It's about minerals. This human body is made up of 102 different minerals. We need to supply that to the body in order to survive. Now, as I said, he answered many of the questions. What should we eat? What should we look for as far as supplying these minerals that the body thrives on? He answered the questions of what are hybrids? These are plants that are created in the laboratory that we are made to believe is real. A prime example of this is the all famous carrot. The carrot was created by man. It took two plants into the laboratory that would not be combined by nature, the yarrow and the wild yam, and created the carrot. Germany created the lie that it gave you better eyesight. The only thing, if you eat enough carrots, will happen is the palm of your hands will get orange, or the whites of your eyes will be orange, but nothing else. So we have to start breaking down the lies that we are told over and over and over again about what drives this body. The fact is, every cell in our body knows what it needs. We don't know because we have been sheltered from the truth, lied to. So we have work to do. A very odd thing happened. The list that you have called 146 reasons that sugar is dangerous to your health. It's a fact. In the brain, between the two halves of the brain, there are two glands, the pituitary gland and the hypothalamus gland. They control what the other glands and the remainder of the body does. When you eat sugar, raw sugar, refined sugar, then the message is missent. So now you know why all of a sudden a law-abiding person will suddenly go insane and go out and kill people. Years ago, when I was still a young fella, I went to Denmark. That was during the end of the Vietnam War. I was talking to a fellow that had deserted from Vietnam. He said he sat down one day to talk with a Viet Cong, the enemy. And the guy told him, "You cannot win. You cannot beat us. I can sit in a tree with a pouch full of rice and some water and wait 2 or 3 days for you to come along and put a bullet in your skull. You cannot sit still for 5 minutes." And we see that every day. Now, part of the thing that Dr. Sebi came up with was to cleanse the body. Just think, every meal that we eat, the body releases maybe 90 or 99% even, but 1% sticks around and sticks around and sticks around. If you want to see what the real condition inside is, multiply this, your age times 365 times 3 meals a day. That's not counting snacks. So after a while, we have to clean the plumbing. Otherwise, it gets backed up, and the whole machinery will stop working. I'm not standing here talking about something hypothetical. In 1992, I had colon cancer. The doctor told my parents, if he lasts till morning, he'll be all right. And I'm still here. But of course, laying on that operating table, thank you. Of course, laying on that operating table makes you intolerant of BS. So, considering what day we live in right now, today, we are dealing with certain viruses. We're still dealing with certain flus. So the immune system is what we need to work on in order to have us ready for the next thing that comes along. The immune system. Many times a week I drink hemp seed milk. The ingredients in hemp seeds will fortify the immune system and help build it stronger and stronger. So we have to prepare and start looking at the real cause of things. Dr. Sebi made, when he was arrested for practicing medicine without a license in New York, he let the court know there's only one disease, and that's mucus. So the reason that I gave out the handout about sugar, because it's one of the most dangerous things that we consume in this society. The other is dairy. Mucus gets into every corner of the body, even in the individual cells of the body, and it has a problem getting out. There are some things that we eat that that the body just cannot get out. Uric acid, for example. Uric acid goes to the bottom of the feet and causes gout. Gets into joints and causes arthritis. Starch also plays a part. So whenever somebody starts giving an idea about what they have learned, just listen. You can disregard it. But it may have some substance to it. And it might save your life. When Dr. Sebi came up with his formula for wellness, he talked about the necessity to cleanse, to clean out the body, to periodically do this so that the body can breathe. And we eat so often that the body cannot relieve itself of the stuff that interferes with the functioning of the body. So I just want to thank you for humbly allowing me to speak to you. And perhaps I've given some information that will see you through a tough time. Because right now we're looking at people that put certain things into our society that will make us sick. Go to the doctor's office. Consider this. How much money do you leave at the doctor's office? How much money do you leave on the operating table? Now you get ready to leave this world and you have nothing to leave your children. You gave it all to the doctor. Thank you. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. My name is Ted Burnett, and my message is it's going to be a little technical, but I think it'll benefit you. About 5 years ago, my wife and I decided that we were going to consider giving up meat, only because she loves animals, and she didn't really want to see the animals kind of taken advantage of. And so we decided that at some point we would give up meat. And then we began to think about when would that be? And along that journey, we began to have conversations with people that are vegan or vegetarian, and how much better they feel without meat with a plant-based diet. And so with that in mind, that's probably where we're going over time. But the thing that connects the dots for us to this is we stumble across this group where you guys are all focused on how to eat, how to meditate, and how to be better spiritually across the board. And so that's why I'm here. You know, I wanted to kind of put a little technical sense to what it is that the journey that you're on should help. In terms of facts, there are about 18 different diseases that through the body that manifest on a regular basis. Cancers, leukemias, Hodgkin's, AIDS, it doesn't really matter. They're all, not necessarily AIDS so much, but there's a lot of all other diseases that kind of manifest through the body. But in some sense, they're all related to gum disease. And so with gum disease, and this is how it specifically works, whenever it is that you eat, you're also feeding the bacteria that are naturally occurring in your body. And when you feed the bacteria, they produce acids. For those of us who have the occurrence to have a little bleeding gums, well, when you have bleeding gums as a result of gum disease or early stages of gum disease, that means the bacteria then can leave from your mouth and enter into the bloodstream, which is where these 18 different diseases begin to manifest. Startling fact, bacteria double every 20 minutes. Just let that sit in for a second. A dividing bacteria will double itself every 20 minutes. And so when they're in circulation, they double, they clump, and then they begin to sediment on organ systems. And so the organ systems, which are supposed to integrate and work well in a uniform homeostatic method, they don't do so. So over time, you find liver disease, kidney disease, diabetes, heart disease, and Alzheimer's, along with low birth weight babies. So my message is really simple. It's in the event that you are going to the dentist, you want to have a full gum examination. And what that really means is they're going to probe, or sounds like a hard word, but they're going to evaluate the gum tissue by measuring the depth between the tooth and the gum. You'll hear numbers, they'll call them out. Those numbers should be 1, 2, or 3. If they're deeper than 1, 2, or 3, whether you see bleeding or not, there's bleeding. And when there's bleeding, bacteria is entering the bloodstream. It's just that simple. Bacteria divide every 20 minutes, and they're affecting organ systems. The recommendation is always the same. See the dentist regularly, have a gum examination, and then if there are services that you require to have that door closed so bacteria can't get into the bloodstream and circulate, do them. Because ultimately, if you close the door so the bacteria cannot get into the bloodstream, you will find that all that you're doing already, meditation, eating well, it's synergistic in how well you'll feel. 3, 6, 9 months from the time of any variety of gum service, you will feel better. Okay? So take the time, as you are doing such great things with yourselves in terms of the focus that you have for a group like this, take the time, see the dentist, make sure that you get a periodontal examination or a gum examination. They'll use a lot of different words for it. If there's treatment involved, please take it. Your best barometer for improvement is going to be, 1, how you feel. 2, that your breath will be fresher. And 3, if you visualize any variety of bleeding, it will disappear. And ultimately, you are going to feel better. Okay? So all the things that you do, from a technical sense, this is something that you can do in addition to that takes you right back to center and better. Okay? That's it.
Hopefully you don't mind. I'm going to stay seated. But before we start, I want you to just focus on your breath. We're going to just take an inhale, big inhale from the nose, and breathe it out the mouth. Big inhale. One more time, big inhale. And exhale. We're going to do this one more time. We're going to hold it at the top. So we're going to big inhale, as big as you can, that prana, that chi, that life force. Hold it, hold it. And just sigh it all the way out. Nice, nice, nice. This allows us to be present. And in presence, we get the opportunity to have a new experience, an opportunity to connect. And I always say, fortunate and unfortunately, I learned this way of breathing in the hospital after playing 8 years in the pros. I played 6 years in New Orleans. I was in Houston. Then I went to Jacksonville. And I was playing the Buffalo Bills' second game, home opener in Jacksonville, making a tackle I had made millions of times. I played linebacker, so it's the alpha male position, so we go and hit hard, right? And on this particular play, I end up on my back, kind of like what you're going to do here shortly in Shavasana. I ended up on my back. And as a gladiator, being vulnerable, got 80,000 people in the stands and millions watching. I'm in this posture that I feel is weak for me. But in fact, it's the most powerful posture we can be in. It's when we're open. But I didn't know that at the time. So I was like, this is embarrassing, get me out of here. But my body's not moving. I'm saying, Keith, get up. A very interesting thing happens when you have an idea that you're hurt, but you can't feel a thing. I was in that position. I was diagnosed with a spinal contusion, my cervical spine, my C2 through C4, fused. I suffered paralysis for about 90 days. I went from one moment being fully functional, capable, to the next moment flat on my back, but in that most powerful position, though. And ironically enough, in the hospital, a nurse came to me. She said, do you know what happens when you breathe? The tangibles are behind what happens when you breathe. On the inhale, the diaphragm pushes down. On the exhale, it pushes up. We take about 10,000 breaths a day. So your chest, your heart, lungs, they don't need your help to breathe. But what gets stuck, right? The internal organs. As Dr. Sebi would say, in the liver, anger exists. In the kidneys, fear. In the belly is the worry. So with our breath, we get an opportunity to participate in our own healing. 10,000 breaths a day. So when we can contribute to our own healing. And when I realized that dynamic in the hospital, I realized I didn't have to be the victim anymore. No matter what the circumstance was, I could participate in my healing. That's an empowered state. And when I was coming through the whole experience, I had realized I had found myself in this role, this character. And I wanted to create something else for myself because I was miserable that whole time. So the second question I'm going to ask you tonight is, when did you first realize that you had a relationship going on with yourself? And ironically enough, I was 31 when I realized this. And the news I want to share with you is that whether you knew or you didn't, you still have this rapport going on with yourself. So when I was trying to, convince myself I love myself and be patient with myself, compassionate with myself is like, hold on, you hadn't treated me like this. You always put me in compromised position. I don't even know who you are. I had to build this relationship with myself. And it started here on my mat. It started here in my meditation to get my mind around what do I want to create. And then in sports, we have the practice field, so we have these ideas that we want to implement in life. But here's an idea that you can take, this compassion and love that you want to create for yourself in your life, put it here on your mat. Because you have an idea that you think you're being patient with people, compassionate with people, loving with people, and you expect that as well. But we're not able to extend that to ourselves. And on top of that, we want to take all that chaos and take it into a relationship and say, I love you. We gonna do this. We're going to put it all on red and ride with it. And the reality is we come up with the chaos. We come up with the same things happening. This is a concept that we can take to put this compassion, put this investment into yourself. I have a saying, if you have equity in the building, you own it. So when you own this equity in your building, you know what you put in your body. You invest into your physical movement, because you can take all the nutrition you want, but you got to circulate it through your body. You got to embody this concept. This idea ain't just going to come through a formality. We say, I love you. And I always tell people, when someone says unconditional love, I got unconditional love for you, run. Because love in itself is complete. Love in itself is complete. And if you want to put another adjective on top of it, say unconditional gratitude, because that's love in its continuous form. You got to stay with it. It's day in, day out, the work. We have an idea that we think we're strong because we have the aesthetics. I used to look over to the left and right when I first started yoga, and I see, I don't know how old she was, but she had a lot of gray in her hair, and I had all this muscle, right? But I was like struggling to hold this plank. I thought I was strong. Where's my emotional concept? So the breath also helps this emotional maturity to develop. The concept of yoga meditation is the human developmental aspect that we get an opportunity to have. To be patient, compassionate, again, with ourselves. Again, we have the idea that we want others to give it, but we got to create it with ourselves. And I'm going to give you another tidbit on this as well. When you go through the sun salutation today, because I studied Hinduism for about a year. I was just intrigued. I'm a student. I wish I was a student like this in Texas A&M, but I didn't like to be a student. But anyway, that's a whole nother conversation. But when you go through the concept of the sun salutation today, I want you to think about this. We start typically in child's pose. It's like you're birthed into this reality, this concept that you want to be in. And then we go to the variations of the warrior 1, the warrior 2, the warrior 3. And that's representing how you've done it, how you think you're doing it. And then we die in Shavasana. And it's an idea to reflect. As I get off my mat, as I'm doing it, to observe how I'm doing it, when I get up, right? I can contemplate this. I can reincarnate myself, the characters, the roles that I have been playing in, the saying, I'm not this, I'm not that. I can recreate myself every day that I come off my mat. And that's the power that we have. We create this. We create this opportunity. Even in the chaos, we create this. I had a talk the other day about abundance. Abundance is a frequency. And abundance you have to be open. And the idea, we typically want to think of the high points only, but in abundance, we also have to take the good, the bad, as it comes. We have to check in with how can we take the compliments? If we can't take the compliments, we can't be in abundance. If we can't take the criticism, we can't be in abundance. Because we cannot compartmentalize life. It all goes together. And so with your practice, you get an opportunity to put it all together. I just want to put that on your mind, right? So thank you so much for allowing me to share this practice.
We have another 5 minutes of just some Q&A, so if anybody has any questions.
Hi, my name is Drew. My question is, so I'm also a yoga teacher, and so I practice mindfulness and some stuff like that. So when I'm in a consistent flow of like practicing and stuff like that, I'm very mindful and I can hold space for myself and for other people, but not when I'm in a space where I'm not able to consistently practice. I have a really hard time showing up for myself. So I was wondering if you guys have any tips on when you're like strapped for like time and energy, a way to continue to hold space for yourself, I guess.
Real quick, just from a yoga perspective, something for me that I've learned on my journey is that the more space you create within yourself, because everything is already inside you, but the mind, the experiences, the stories, whatever you've been through, the energy you're around, you tend to feel congested. You feel like there's too much, but really you need to create more space within you. And so with the breathing, just being able to wake up and just sit with yourself and take 5 to 10 conscious deep belly breaths cycle through, open up channels, open up your portals, and then you feel expansive. And so when you step out into the world of chaos and 9 to 5 and hustle, you have the capacity now to be more aware of what's happening and to be able to make the right decisions and use more discernment versus just taking on. So the breath, starting with a really deep breathing exercise, and it doesn't have to be anything strenuous, maybe 5 to 10 breaths.
And it's also, what is your intention? What are you creating? You got to bring that back because it's an investment into yourself, right? So what am I creating? What is my desires? And that's also the reason why you're practicing yoga. You have desires, and we have to build this strength, this stamina to stay in it. Yeah? Yes.
I do empowerment work with homeless men and women and people who have been through trauma. And so we include breathing and meditation in our empowerment work. But if there's something else you could recommend specifically for people who are trying to release trauma?
One day I realized I was always on time. That's the other person's concern. I'm late, I've got to hurry, I'm late. No. You're in a hurry to prepare your food, your stomach suffers. You're in a hurry to do this, you suffer here. Stress becomes distress. Distress becomes disease. We have to learn to take our time. We have to learn, okay, I'll be there, period. One day when I moved to where I am now, I had a microwave oven. One day I opened the back door and threw it. I don't need it, I'm not in a hurry. When General Electric told this lady that inquired how to cleanse a sponge, they said, put it in a microwave oven for 3 minutes, it kills all life in it. What happens to your food? Now you put it in your stomach. Now you gotta go sit down because your stomach is upset. Take your time. You have enough time to do everything that you need to do in this life.
I just want to springboard on that just a smidgen. What we know in medicine across the board is that stress is inevitably the cause of most all things. When you are stressed, your immune system is depressed. And so your system then can't fight disease or illness. And so in an effort to be centered, to be in focus, to be your best person, to be healthy, you have to be conscious of the plan. I think I heard that word down the panel. It's the plan of what your goal is. And it's not so much a medical thing, it's a human thing. It's a personal choice to put yourself in a place. And be mindful that when you are in this place, you're helping yourself be calm and keep the immune system operating at its natural best.
Just to touch on your question, specifically dealing with trauma, something that I've learned in training is we normally deal with our situations in our sympathetic nervous system, which is fight or flight. So they teach you it's either you're up here where you just totally checked out or you're in your lows. So they teach you, if you want to address trauma, find the resiliency zone, which is do something. So if you're working with these men, do an activity that invokes some level of joy, excitement, feel good, and then address the issue. Because if you ever notice, if you try to deal with an argument when it's in its rage, everybody's on fight or flight. You take that walk, go have some dinner, and then you circle back. Hey, can we talk about this now? So use that approach. And the mat, what are you getting ready to do now? This is your resiliency zone. So whatever you came in here with, or you want to leave different, like he was saying, put it on the mat. Breathe through it. Feel it in your body. A lot of times we use, and I'm going to wrap it up, a lot of times we get triggered by this word where if you share something with a friend, they say, oh, stop being a victim. Well, my philosophy is, first you got to identify what's going on before you can be anything. It's cool, address the issue first, and then you get to choose. Do I want to be a victim, or do I want to create a new experience?
Please give these men another round of applause. Thank you all for being here. The energy here is amazing. Thank you all for making this a community, because that's what we're building right now. Just to see this grow and manifest to what it's become, it's beautiful. And we're taking this time to really raise our frequencies, to really raise the bar of how we think consciously throughout the day. This is meant to bring the awareness towards the self of not just at a yoga studio, taking the time, I'm going to go do yoga, let me go. It's no, it's how can we take this towards our everyday lifestyle? How can you take this at home? How can you take this with your kids? How can you take this at work? So it's just learning how to really bring awareness to the self, because that's where it comes from. It's from listening towards ourselves. And knowing that you just have these thoughts. You're not trying to stop the thoughts from happening, you're just recognizing it. And once you begin to recognize those thoughts, that's when you can, I would say, start to slow them down, because we're not trying to stop anything. Everything is flow. So we're just trying to understand what's going on. And then once we get to this part of understanding what's going on in the mind, that starts to slow down. Then you can start to send positive affirmations towards yourself. So things like, I'm abundant, I'm grateful for another day, I'm smart, I'm strong, I'm vibrant. These are things that I say to myself every morning. So just really taking that time to really listen in towards yourself and channel your own energy, because we all have a special energy. We're all individuals that have a creative spark, and we're here to bring that awareness, bring those vibes in. So thank you all. This is beautiful. Thank you. Thanks for watching. If you enjoy what you saw, like and subscribe to our channel. Go watch our next video. Follow us at Yogi Athlete through the social media on our links below, and we hope to see you soon.